Dean Thomas was a seriously underrated character and actually could have had a much bigger storyline than we saw. He had no more than 8 lines in the movies.
Ron, is that your owl?
So in today's video I'm going to explain Dean's entire life and add some information about Dean that was released after the series ended. Dean Thomas was born in 1989. He was the son of a wizard father and a Muggle mother. His father left when Dean was very young, never telling his wife that he was a wizard, out of the belief that not knowing the truth would protect her and their son from the dangers of the First Wizarding War. Dean's father was later murdered by a group of Death Eaters when he refused to join them. Dean's mother later remarried a Muggle who raised Dean as his own son. Dean grew up thinking he was a Muggle born. "My dad left my mom when I was a kid. I've got no proof he was a wizard though." He lived in London with several half-siblings who were implied to be all female. He had a very happy home life. Dean was a supporter of the West Ham United Football Club and was very technical and showed off his talent throughout his school career. Dean is depicted as having dark hair and dark skin, and to be even taller than Ron Weasley due to the fact he has a long neck. Dean also appeared to be of African descent. When the Hogwarts letter arrived for Dean, his mother suspected that Dean's biological father may have been a wizard. Her suspicions were correct, he was in fact a wizard. However, she never had proof of this, and so Dean was believed to be a Muggle-born. Dean started his education at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry on 1st September 1991. He was in the same year as the famous Harry Potter. During the Welcome Feast, he was sorted into Gryffindor House, where he met with fellow Gryffindor classmate Seamus Finnegan. Dean shared a dormitory with Seamus, who soon became his best friend, as well as with Neville, Ron and Harry, with whom he later became good friends. Due to his Muggle upbringing, Dean, like Harry, was not a supporter of Quidditch, as he had never heard of the sport, though he would eventually become quite a skilled player. Dean hung a West Ham poster above his bed. Ron couldn't believe Dean would find a game with only 1 ball, 2 goals interesting. Dean, being artistic, drew a banner entitled "Potter for President" for Harry during his first Quidditch match. When Harry was fouled by Marcus Flint, Dean claimed that the referee should send him off with a red card, and Ron explained that the red card rule did not exist in Quidditch. In his second year, Dean Thomas joined the Dowling Club, a club taught by Goldery Lockhart, in an attempt to train students in the battle against any possible danger that might be lurking around Hogwarts. Dean, among other students, shared their speculation about the Chamber of Secrets and what might be inside and how to get in. Dean was believed to be at risk of being attacked as he was a supposed Muggle-born, and Muggle-born students were being attacked through the year. In Dean's third year, he was allowed to visit the Village of Hogsmeade, and he expressed positive interest in the new Care of Magical Creatures teacher Rubeus Hagrid, as he always got on with him. However, in their first lesson, when Hagrid introduced the class to a hippogriff named Buckbeak, Dean stepped back and showed fear when Hagrid asked for a volunteer to pet him. Also in this year, Dean took on the subject definition and was, along with Neville, one of the few students in their class unfamiliar with the Green. That year, Hogwarts became under the protection of the Mingers following the escape of Sirius Black from Azkaban. During Dean's 4th year, Hogwarts hosted the Triwizard Tournament, and his friend Harry Potter had qualified as an underage champion. This was against the tournament's rules, so Harry was not the popular choice for Hogwarts representative. Most support was given to Cedric Diggory by Dean's friends. However, Dean and other fellow Gryffindors supported Harry throughout the course of the tournament, staying loyal to their friend. Dean also attended the Yellow Ball as a part of the tournament traditions. He commented that Harry and Ron were lucky to get the most beautiful girls in the year as their dates. It is unknown who Dean attended the dance with, as his best friend Seamus Finnegan was going with Lavender Brown and Neville was going with Ginny Weasley. After the third and final task, Harry returned to Hogwarts with Cedric Diggory's dead body, and he said that Lord Voldemort has returned again. Dumbledore gathered students for a memorial feast to Cedric Diggory at the end of the year, in which he told them about the events that took place during the third task. During this 5th year, Dolores Umbridge was appointed to Hogwarts School to act as an eye for the Ministry. Umbridge didn't get along well with Dean. During her first lesson, they argued openly about their opinions on the teaching method at Hogwarts. She called Remus Lupin a dangerous half-breed, which caused Dean to jump into his defense, claiming that he was the best teacher he ever had. He was also very supportive of Harry's claim that Lord Voldemort had returned. He and Seamus argued when Dean believed Harry about Voldemort returning and Seamus didn't. Umbridge eventually caused an uproar amongst the students, and when it came time to fight back, Dean, one of the first to arrive for the meeting of the group that became Dumbledore's army.
Blimey, Harry. I didn't know you could do that.
And his support for his friend didn't stop, and it was always on their side, even though Seamus, his best friend, unlike him, believed the Daily Prophet. Also that year, Umbridge sacked Sybil Trelawney from being the divination teacher, and Firenze the Centaur replaced her. Firenze was telling Dean that he had been banished by his herd living in the Forbidden Forest, and Dean was excited to discover there were more centaurs around the school grounds, and asked him if Hagrid was breeding them. Firenze told Dean that centaurs were their own race and had nothing to do with humans, and didn't require their help to breed, which caused Dean to become extremely embarrassed and lose control, so he accidentally insulted his new divination teacher in front of the class. During his 5th year, Dean took his OWL exams, and after he finished, he was pleased to hear that the results would not arrive until sometime in July, meaning he didn't have to worry about them until the middle of the school holidays. Later in the year, Umbridge and her squad discovered the Dumbledore's Army, and they made an end for the year. Sometime around the end of his 5th year, Dean became romantically involved with Ginny Weasley, and the two continued dating well into his 6th year. The next year, Dean replaced Kitty Bell as the chaser for the Gryffindor Quidditch team. At first, their relationship with Ginny seems to be strong, as the couple spent a lot of time together. They dated in spite of her older brother Ron's disapproval. Despite the amount of time they spent together, their relationship began to spiral downwards. This was in part due to Ginny's crush on Harry Potter. She had hidden affection for Harry since her first year at Hogwarts, and her affections only grew when Harry saved her from the influence of Tom Riddle's diary. Ginny still maintained hope that Harry would return her feelings. She started dating Dean and a few other boys. Ginny also showed Dean her willingness to continue standing up for Harry. For example, when she became angry at Dean for laughing about Harry getting hit by a bludger, making her visit him in the hospital wing after that. When Harry bumped into Ginny while climbing through the Gryffindor common room entrance under his invisibility cloak and under the influence of Felix Felicis, Ginny believed that it was Dean who kept trying to help her through the portrait hole, and the two argued over it. Dean stuck to his ground, saying he didn't help her through, and Ginny ended their relationship. Harry and Ginny shared a kiss at the Quidditch party soon after she broke up with him, and Dean broke his glass in wonder that his friend and ex-girlfriend would start a romance so soon. Despite this, Dean shared no hate to either Ginny or Harry for their relationship. He was only hurt they would do such a thing so shortly after he was dumped by her. What actually happened was that Dean was unfairly blamed for something he didn't mean to do. What makes things worse is that Harry was actually the one to blame for it. The same year was also the year the headmaster of the school, Albus Dumbledore, was killed. Dean Thomas attended his funeral with his best friend Seamus Finnegan. This would be the last year Dean attended education at Hogwarts, as the following year he would not return for his own safety. Dean's supposed Muggle-born status put him on the run from the Ministry of Magic. He went on the run after the ministry fell under the control of Lord Voldemort and began rounding up Muggle-born wizards and witches. The ministry also imprisoned them in Azkaban for allegedly stealing magic. This also meant he could not return to study his final year of education at Hogwarts, as they now had a strict no-Muggle-born policy under the influence of new headmaster Severus Snape. At some point while on the run, Dean met Ted Tonks and joined a group of fellow runaways, including the Goblin Greypoke. The group stuck together and camped in different areas in an attempt to mislead any trees they might have left. Dean and Greypoke often shared conversations about Harry Potter, Dean fully supporting Harry in his quest, and Greypoke somewhat doubtful and occasionally finding the mentioning of Harry's name boring. Later, they were found by a group of snatters that was led by Fenrir Greyback. Dean and Greypoke were the only survivors of the violent capture. Around the same time, Harry broke the taboo curse in Voldemort's name, alerting the snatters to his location. Ron and Hermione were also captured, as they were with him, and the prisoners were all brought to Malfoy Manor. All of them were imprisoned in the dungeons in the basement, where Luna Lovegood and Mr. Ollivander were already held. Luna greeted Dean in a friendly manner. The group had to listen helplessly, as they overheard Hermione being tortured by Bellatrix Lestrange for information. However, the group was soon rescued by Dobby the house elf. Harry had Dobby take Luna, Dean, and Mr. Ollivander first, before returning to collect the trio. But Bellatrix Lestrange threw her knife at Harry, and it separated with them, fatally wounding Dobby, who died in Harry's arms at Shell Cottage.
Harry Potter.
Dean helped Harry and Ron dig a grave for Dobby by hand to show gratitude, rather than doing it with magic. Dean placed a hat on top of Dobby to represent that Dobby was a free elf, and expressed his thanks to Dobby for rescuing them. Dean spent the next few months of hiding at Shell Cottage with Luna, Greypoke, and the trio. During this time, Dean and Luna seemed to grow close, despite Dean's confusion at some of the comments she would make. Mr. Ollivander was able to make Luna a new one, but Dean was left without one. Harry, Hermione, and Ron soon left the cottage with Greypoke to break into Gringotts Wizarding Bank. In May of 1998, Dean, Luna, Bill, and Fleur received the call to arms from Dumbledore's army as the trio had returned to Hogwarts. The most amazing part of this being that he arrived ready for the battle without even a wand in his possession. "We're fighting, aren't we?" The message said Harry was back, and we're going to fight. I'll have to get a wand though. When Dean entered the room with requirements, Seamus Finnegan ran forward and hugged him. Dean fought with his fellow Dumbledore's army members in the Battle of Hogwarts, at some point winning himself a wand. During the battle, the trio sparred at Dean fighting against Antonio Dolohov and Travers, standing all the Death Eaters. When Lord Voldemort and all his followers arrived at the castle, Dean stood strong with other loyal members of Dumbledore's army, including Neville Longbottom, who slew Nagini. He survived the attacks at the end, in which Dumbledore's army fought back after Harry's supposed death. The Battle of Hogwarts ended with a final duel between Harry and Voldemort, which Dean stood amongst the crowd of supporters and witnessed. After the battle, Dean was seen talking with Seamus and Aberforth Dumbledore in the Great Hall, where friends, family, teachers, all of them were celebrating the victory. It is unknown what Dean's life was like in the time following the final battle, but now we know more about Dean's backstory. Despite being one of the smaller characters in the series, Dean had all the courage and confidence to make him a true Gryffindor. Thank you so much for watching, please consider subscribing to the channel, and see you again in the next video.